Welcome to my kitchen. This is a third recipe from the Meal Prep Week, A Simple Menu. Tomato and snap pea salad. I originally wanted to have something a little bit lighter to go along with the other dishes. With just a couple of simple ingredients, we get a seriously delicious salad. I was quite surprised at how yummy it turned out. It hits all the right notes. Sweet, tart, crunchy, cheesy, and it comes together really easily. We get started with our tomatoes, and we just want them halved. It's about 10 to 12 ounces of grape tomatoes. I like to have them because it helps the dressing be just a little bit more juicy and a little bit more flavorful. I like the way it also affects the texture of the salad. This part takes the longest, but I definitely think it's worth it. I like to get lost in the process. Cooking is supposed to be fun and relaxing. At least for me. A moment of zen. After we get the tomatoes done, we move on to the snap peas. I cut them in about 1/4-inch pieces. This makes it easier to eat, and it allows you to, while you're cutting them, take any of those strings out that are on them. And that's about 3 or 4 ounces of the snap peas. I like using snap peas in my salads because they have a great crunch and they have a little bit of a different flavor, and there's just a bit of sweetness to them. The dressing is next. This gives it a chance for all the flavors to marry together while you're getting the rest of your ingredients together. You start with a clove of garlic. You don't need a lot. I just used a little bit because this is raw garlic. It's not going to get cooked in any way, so that can be a little bit stronger. And I decided to use the rasp. I like the nice fine pieces that you get with that. They sort of almost melt into the rest of the salad. And then we're going to move on to the lemon. And you want the zest and the juice. 1 lemon. Remember when you're zesting your lemon that you just want the yellow part. Try not to get any of the white part in there because that part's more bitter. And then when you cut your lemon and you squeeze it, make sure you keep the cut side up so that'll help keep the seeds out of the dressing. You want about 1/4 cup of lemon juice. A little bit more if you like your salads a little more tart. Next is the salt and the pepper, and that's about 1/2 teaspoon of each. I also decided that I want just a little extra in there, so I decided to use some white pepper. White pepper is a little bit hotter than black pepper, and it gives it a nice warm heat. It's not a spicy heat like red pepper flakes would be. So we're just putting a little bit of that in. It's 1/4 teaspoon, and it just gives you a nice little mellow heat to it. And then the other thing I decided to put in is some dillweed. That has a nice herby flavor that's a little bit different than basil. So it goes really nice with basil, but it's just another little depth of flavor that you get from that. And that's a teaspoon of dillweed. And then we're going to move on to our olive oil. And that's 1/3 to 1/2 cup of olive oil. And we want to whisk in the olive oil, and you want to mix it up really well. And you want to keep whisking until it starts to get just a little bit thicker. And then we're going to move on to some Romano cheese. And I used the rasp to grate that too. I just like the way it has the perfect size to it. They're nice thin pieces of the cheese. It's not big chunky cheese. And that's anywhere from 1/4 to 1/3 cup. And then we're going to move on to some fresh basil. This is basil from my garden. Still getting basil out of the garden. 8 to 10 leaves of basil, and you just want to cut them into very thin, like little ribbons. And you do that by stacking the leaves up and rolling them lengthwise. And then just take your knife and cut down just little tiny ribbons. Technically, it's called a chiffonade. And then we want to give things just a little bit of stir. Then we can pour the dressing on it. And then you want to give it a really good toss. You want everything to be evenly combined and coat it with the dressing. Make sure every little piece has some dressing on it. And then you want to give it a try. You may find that it needs a little bit more salt. Mine did. Sometimes it depends on how salty the cheese is. So I always like to wait until the end to give that a try and see if any kind of adjustments that you want to make. Now, if your salad lasts long enough, I like to store it in a glass container. This salad is so good, I think it might go quick. You may not have to worry about leftovers. And it does just get better the longer that it sits. This salad works perfectly with the rest of the dishes in the meal prep. And it's also great to have for a snack. I hope you enjoy this recipe, and I hope you give it a try. Let me know how it goes. Thanks for watching.